Welcome back. It is often said you can't fight City Hall, but can you fight the Federal Reserve? That's what dozens of small business owners went to Washington this week to find out, including a handful from Arizona. Cronkite News reporter Alexandria Cullen was there and brings us their story.
Darling Geomatics can do some pretty cool stuff as it brings the old-fashioned art of surveying into the high-tech age. But CEO Mary Darling says they can't do any of that without funding from the banks.
Can't, as small businesses, grow without extremely good access to capital. We've been at times in our history where we didn't have that access, and we actually had to mortgage our house.
That's why Darling joined others in Washington to lobby against the Federal Reserve Plan to increase the amount of capital large banks have to hold in reserve. The entrepreneurs say that will mean less money available to lend, making borrowing for small businesses harder and more expensive. Joe Wall is behind Goldman Sachs' Stop the Squeeze on Small Businesses campaign, which organized this week's trip to Washington.
Well, the reality for small businesses right now is that it's already a really tough capital climate, and this rule will only make it all the more difficult.
The proposed rule is the latest in a series of financial regulations adopted in response to the 2008 crisis. The Fed says the rule is needed to increase the strength and resilience of the banking system. But Wall said regulators need to think about the impact the change could have on small businesses.
Everyone says they love small business. Often when it comes for policy making, they get left behind. So we're hopeful that today's activities will put small businesses front and center.
Darling spoke with several of Arizona members of Congress on Tuesday and said those conversations have been started.
They understand, and they're getting up to speed on the whole banking reform. And it takes stories, testimonies from small business to really, truly comprehend the vast impacts and the domino effect that this could have.
This month, the Fed did extend the deadline for comments until January, and if put in place, the rule would be enforced as of July 2025. In Washington, Alexandria Cullen, Cronkite News.
Thanks, Alex. Goldman Sachs said more than 3,000 small business owners signed a letter to the Fed opposing the changes.